All right. Today I want to go over combat in 4 steps. This is kind of a beginner video. I can remember when I first discovered solo RPGs, just being overwhelmed with all the options. And so I thought I would break combat down since combat's a pretty big part of the game. Let's see. Yes. So I'll be using basic fantasy. And actually, I am going to go ahead and get started. Here we go. All right. So combat and 4 steps for solo play. So the main thing that's different about combat is that the way we measure time changes. So we measure them by rounds, which are 10 seconds. When we're out of combat, we're measuring in turns, which are 10 minutes. All right. So it's turn based. So when you get into a combat situation, time kind of freezes and then you go through these steps here. Okay, step 1, surprise. Use group roles for both the player character and the monsters and NPCs. There's 2 types of surprises. The ambush is like a preset thing where maybe there's a group of goblin waiting for the party to come and they jump out of the shadows. On a 1 to 4 on a D6, they will surprise the other group. But I'm going to talk about a normal encounter. So let's say the party is walking along in the forest and then another group of goblins is walking the opposite direction. They see each other. So in that case, which is pretty common, you would roll a 1d6 for both groups. So on a d6, a 1 or 2 would be you're surprised. You're unable to act for the first round, but you can still defend yourself. So you don't have an AC penalty. It's like you'll lift up your arms to block things or, have reflexes, but you can't talk or cast a spell or do any actions. Elves, and I added rangers and scouts for my game, are only surprised on a 1d6, which is nice. And some monsters are immune to being surprised. Of course, undead, the zombies are always going to be looking to eat your brains, and constructs like golems can't be surprised because of their mechanical nature. Certain animals too will just come after you if they're hungry. All right. So if we pass by the surprise, and let's just say that both parties are not surprised, so we can kind of move on to step 2, which is monster NPC reactions. Okay, so we roll a 2d6. You can add your charisma bonus, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. My character has no charisma bonus, so we just roll 2d6. And then we're going to look here at these different outcomes. So if you're lucky and you roll a 12, then the monsters are going to be very favorable. They might want to trade or help you, or who knows? It might open up a quest or something. But you just use your judgment if it's a type of creature that's just going to attack, or this is also for the GM to add a little bit to the dice roll. For example, maybe the monsters were fighting with each other and then got into the room and they're already upset. So it's going to be a -2 on your 2d6. Okay, but let's just move on and say that we're getting into a fight so we can get into this here. Okay, initiative, step 3. So this is who goes first, the order of combat. So I'm doing like a fast initiative roll, 1d6 plus your dexterity mod. I'll explain a little later, but we're doing group rolls instead of individual rolls. Okay, so highest roll goes first. And then this is my rule here. If there's a tie, the player goes first, the adventurer. And I kind of borrowed this from Scarlet Heroes. They have a similar rule. A couple options. You can hold your turn, which means you wait until you go last, just in case you need to maybe help somebody or something. And you can ready an action, like maybe you have your crossbow is ready to go, and as soon as a goblin steps out of the shadows, you're ready to fire a shot. That's a little bit more advanced. Let's go to the combat phase. This is the last phase pretty much. Okay, so combat. We have movement and actions. Okay, so movement, This is a pretty basic 30 feet. Remember, that's in 10 seconds. If you want to run double speed, then you can go 60 feet in 10 seconds, but then you can't attack afterwards. You can move and attack as long as you're able to stay within this 30 feet. And then the actions here we go. So we have attacks. It's going to be a melee attack with a sword or a club. Ranged attacks can be thrown weapons or bow and arrow and stuff. Casting spells. Most spells require concentration, speaking, chanting. Some of them have hand movements. Dash run, double movement speed, unable to attack. I got rid of this, but I wanted to keep it in to show you that it's a evolving process to get the system working the way I like, I guess. So you can guard, get a +2 AC. You can grapple, someone like grapple. So if I want to go grapple with somebody, they have to save versus death ray, which is a 1d20. Saving throws are kind of another thing, but and then if you start grappling, then you have to get into like strength checks and stuff. Improvise. This would just mean using the environment. Maybe you're running away and you pull a chair behind you, or you knock over some water to make the person slip, or you have a banana peel, whatever. Use an object. This is when I've never pulled a lever very much in games, but if you drink a potion, use a wand, that kind of a thing. Help. Yeah, so I'm still working on this one, but I think what I want to do with it is you can go over and try to take the hit for your ally. And then flee, run away. I'll get into this more when monsters run away, but there's yeah, anyway, I'll talk about it later. Let's get here to the morale check. It's pretty interesting. So this is this is actually not a 1d12. That's error. Hold on. It's a 2d6. So it's a score between 2 and 12. I'm going to talk about this in just a moment. You're also going to check on character conditions, like if you're blinded, charmed, entangled. Sometimes, for example, you'll be blinded for 2 rounds, or you get a saving throw every round to try to get out of it. And then when the next round starts, you re-roll for initiative. So it's like a fresh start. Okay. And then you just do the initiative, and then you go back to the combat phase, and you just keep going until one party runs away or gives up or dies, I guess. So let's take a look at, where was I here? Oh boy, where was I go? It's okay, I can edit this out. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Maybe I'll just leave that in because, gosh. Okay, this is a hobgoblin. It's considered a humanoid monster. There's 14 different types of monsters. We'll learn about that later. So yeah, medium size, humanoid. I just wanted to cover these because I'll get to morale here. But so armor class, 11 is if you're just wearing clothes. So 14 is considered light armor. The higher the armor class, the better. Hit dice, your health, or the hobgoblin's health, it has 1 hit dice, which means it's a d6. And I just like to go with the average for 3 hit points. If you have 10 hobgoblins, you could technically roll 10 different times and get individual hit points for all of them. Or you can just give them all 3 hit points. Number of attacks, 1 by weapon. I'm not sure how they do 1d8 damage, because that's a pretty big hit. But when it says weapon, they can have a melee weapon or ranged weapon. Their movement is pretty similar to humans, 30 feet. If they're unarmored, 40 feet. Number appearing. I'm trying to figure out what this is. This is just number appearing. Then in the wild, it's 2d4. In the lair, 4d8. That's a lot. Okay. Save as a first level fighter. And there's tables that get into that. I'll come back to morale. There's also tables for these treasure types. It's quite a bit there. And then each hobgoblin is worth 25 XP. And to give you an idea, my character is trying to get to level 2 and he needs 1,500. Okay, morale. So in the monsters and the different NPCs usually have a number given. So morale of 8 is pretty average, I guess, but 12 is the highest number. So if like a golem or undead has a morale of 12, it just means that they'll fight until they die. They'll never run away because they're that kind of a creature. Some like dragons and stuff, I think will have a higher number, maybe 10. But in general, most creatures don't want to really fight to the death. So, you know what? I'm going to read the actual official rules that's coming up next. But I highlighted some of this description because I thought it was pretty well. I like this first sentence. Hobgoblins are basically man-sized goblins. They have dark vision with a 30-foot range, hatred of elves, and will attack them whenever they think they can win. And this is where you get into some of the subtypes of hobgoblin. 1 out of every 6 will be a warrior, a little bit beefier. And then if there's a warrior present, all regular hobgoblins gain a +1 to their morale if they're led by a warrior. 1 out of every 12 will be a chieftain, stronger than the warrior. And then in layers of 30 or more hobgoblin, you're going to have the hobgoblin king. And then in addition, there could be, here. In the lair, hobgoblins never fail a moral check as long as the king is alive. That's so they'll just keep going till their leader is compromised. There can also be a shaman who has clerical abilities, level 1 or 1d6 + 1, so it could be up to a level 7 shaman, or a witch or a warlock, which is considered like a magic user, or it doesn't have the +1, so up to level 6. All right, so that gives us some idea about how the morale works. Okay, so now we're going to shift and we're going to go right to the source. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. This is the encounter. One moment here. There we are. Okay, so if you go to basicfantasy.org, you click on downloads, scroll down a little bit, and there it is. You can download the PDF. You don't need to give them your email or sign up or anything. It's free. So let me go back to my copy. I also bought the physical book, and my book is completely highlighted and notes everywhere. But I really read this carefully, and I want to try to explain it in a basic way for like someone who's just starting off, because there are quite a few options. I actually forgot some of the moves that you could do and stuff. Okay, so let's start over again. Here we go. The order of play. So the first thing it says is time shifts to combat rounds 10 seconds long. So first step is going to be surprise. Roll a 1d6 for each side. I kind of went over this. Surprise characters are unable to act for 1 round, okay? If both parties are surprised, you just kind of ignore it. Here we go. Surprise characters or creatures stand flat-footed for 1 round. They can still defend themselves, so there's no penalty to armor class, but they cannot move nor attack during the round of surprise. Second step, monster reactions. So when you're meeting 1 or more monsters, that's interesting. I still do it with 1 monster. Zombies guarding the tomb will virtually always attack intruders. And so, yeah, you roll a 2d6 plus your charisma bonus from the lead character. This would be, the hero. And as you can see here, if you're lucky and you get a 12, you can get a very favorable, which could lead to some interesting situations. What I'm getting at is there are ways to get around combat if you want to play the game as like a more peaceful type character. It's definitely possible. 3, initiative. Okay, so every combat round, you roll a new initiative, dexterity bonus, The highest number acts first. Yeah, I went over this stuff. Okay, so but this is a big deal. So um let's see. You know what? I'm gonna talk about dexterity after, but this each round determines who's gonna get to go first. And yeah, that's it. I was just gonna say, like, I just do the group thing. I know if you're using like a VTT, it does that automatically for you, which is pretty cool. But I'm doing everything like paper and pencil and physical dice. Um, Combat. So each character gets a combat move. This is important. So in this game, if you're within 5 feet of opposing enemy or whatever, you automatically engaged. So you're automatically starting your melee attacks and whatnot. Okay, running character can't attack, double their speed. Oh, right, this is interesting here. So characters are allowed to run a number of rounds equal to 2 times the character's constitution, after which they are exhausted. And that says, exhausted characters or creatures must rest for at least a turn, so 10 minutes, before running again. And, you know, I'm going to skip over some of this stuff because I wanted to get to, we're going to skip that. Just pretend you didn't see all this stuff here. I want to get to brawling. Punches are 1d3. Kicks are 1d4 with a -2 attack penalty, unless maybe you're a monk, but I've never, Here we go, morale. So let me just cover this. NPCs and monsters don't always want to fight to the death. In fact, most will try to avoid death whenever possible. So we roll a 2d6, and then this is interesting here. So morale is checked when monsters first encounter opposition. I've been skipping that. I didn't realize that's also a thing. And again, when the monster party is reduced to half strength. By numbers, if more than one monster, or hit points if the monster is alone. So if it gets like half or lower, then it's pretty much gonna run. A monster that fails a morale check will generally attempt to flee. Intelligent monsters or NPCs may try to surrender, especially if they're like trapped in a room and they can't run. And I think that's all I have for that. Since we're here. Okay, so this is kind of a custom character sheet. I know there's tons of information on here, but let's just scroll down. I wanted to talk about the attributes here, but I have something set up. All right. So let me just cover this. You have these attributes here, and you roll 3 6-sided dice. So you have a score between 3 and 18. So let me just explain what they are. Strength is going to be your attack damage for melee attacks. Carry capacity, which I don't really do. Opening stuck doors. And saving throws versus grapple and being tangled and stuff when you have to physically break out of things. Intelligence is the magic user spell bonus, the number of languages known, and saving throws versus illusion type spells. Moving on, wisdom. This is for clerics, spell bonus, willpower, passive perception, saving throws versus charm, mind control. Dexterity is going to be like your speed. You get the bonus on initiative bonus or penalty, actually. Attack and damage rolls for ranged attacks. Your reflexes, thief skills. So really important for especially thieves, actually, and any ranged type of characters, ranged attacks. Constitution is your health, toughness, bonus or penalty to hit points, which means, oh my gosh, I can't see it here. Let's come up here. So Sathu's constitution is 13, which gives him a +1. So that means that when it's his turn to roll for a level, a 1d6, then he would get a +1 to that 1d6. And it starts to definitely add up over time, give you more hit points. Charisma. These are the leaders, social influence, respected. And this has to do with reaction checks and social interactions. Intimidation, persuasion, you can haggle somebody and get the price down if you have a high charisma. And it also affects your hired retainers, and it does not affect moral checks. I'm not sure why I thought that. That is for when you first, the monster reaction, I think. All right, so let's take a look here at the range of scores here. So, if you roll a triple one, which I don't think I've really seen before, but you might just have to restart another character or get a reroll there, but you would have a -3 on your whichever attribute it was. Same thing, 4 or 5. So pretty much you want to avoid the lower rolls, of course. And then if you have a score between 9 and 12, it's just average 0. And then all the way up to 18, you can get up to a +3. So let's just take a look at Sathu. He has a +1 on strength, nothing for intelligence. Wisdom is the main thing, and he has a +2 there. Nothing for dex, just a +1 for constitution, and nothing for charisma. Let's come back down. This is his thing here for Sathu. So you can roll, but you're playing by yourself and stuff like that, and I mean, you can try to roll, but it's really hard to get like 5 in a row. So the way I do it is there's a standard array, which are just these scores, and that's actually what I used for Sathu. So you take these scores and plug them in where you want them, but then I also was able to move some numbers around. So maybe take 2 from 12 and put it up here to make this 17. Anyway, the total points was 72, and I'm pretty sure I have 72 here. So I didn't, want to make like a super character and make them too strong. Let's see. I think I'm going to stop here. Combat. So, I was going to use Owl Bear Rodeo and do stuff, but I think this is a good introduction for now. This video was really hard for me to make because it's technical and step by step. And I couldn't believe how many times it took me to record this. So I'm happy that I got this done and I can move on to more abstract concepts and topics and combat. That's where it's at. See you later.